Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, estamos...
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for yet another panel. We have been talking about talent in and out of the pitch. Portugal has seen a lot of talent shining in our pitches, but we have exported for many years some of our best players, coaches, managers, executives in the world of football, and now we will have the opportunity to listen to three of the best Portuguese coaches that have been working in some of the best leagues in the planet and spread some magic. I'm expecting an animated talk and a fun one because they have a lot of knowledge to share and a lot of stories to tell. And this will be one of the high moments of this third and last day of our Thinking Football Summit 2023. So let's call to the floor three gentlemen who need no introduction, but they deserve a round of applause together with the moderator, Paulo, Sousa, Vítor, Pereira, and Carlos Carvalhal. Round of applause for all of them. Henrique Calixto, also our moderator in this panel. Enjoy, let's learn. Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to greet the organizers of the event. It's an event that is unique at an European and world level. Even congratulations to Liga Portugal and Pedro Proença, who have been dynamizing this session, and our history demands this. So let's talk about the history of Portuguese coaches. As we have many young people here, let me introduce these people. Within my perspective, we look at the success of Portuguese coaches in the 21st century, and the 21st century says that Portuguese coaches have won 75 titles in 30 countries. This is real, but the knowledge doesn't come out of nothing, and the history of Portuguese coaches many times is not well told, and it's a history of people dedicated to football with passion, with a will, with a demand, a search for wisdom. The football had some games in the 19th century, even in Portugal. Some people say in Madeira, the first match, some in Lisbon, but football was implemented. The majority of the clubs comes about in the 20th century, and it was a period that was extremely complicated for the affirmation of football. In its time, football was a sport for people that were not qualified. We were in a political situation that was very serious. The Republic came about in 1910, and then up to 26 we had many political issues, 2 world wars, a colonial war, a poor country where, for example, football was played in the first league. In 1982 it was mandatory that all the clubs of the first league to play in grass fields. That happened only in 82, and there are 3 men who are within the show of these world stars. First, Cândido Oliveira. Cândido Oliveira is the first captain of the national team in 1921. The first match of the national team where our team will have the shirts of Casa Pia, because we didn't have a federation. I think the federation was created in 1926. Cândido Oliveira was a politician, a player, a star. He was someone dedicated with all his heart to football. He founded a ball journal. He was a political prisoner. Besides football, he was a very knowledgeable man, and he struggled for our profession, not only for the affirmation of the class, but also legally. Up to the 60s, we were not part as a profession catalog. You couldn't register in your identity being a professional coach. It was the first coach calling Muniz Pereira to be the physical trainer. That happened in 1920. He implemented the WME and other changes. He was a gentleman in football. Then we have Fernando Vaz, another man coming from Casa Pia, who struggled for the creation of the first union for workers. He did several courses. He was also a coach with that's went to different clubs in Académica and Setúbal. And then we have José Maria Pedroto. And this is a quick story of coaches that took their degrees, who dedicated. The three of them are people who fought for our class, but they wanted to implement courses. These courses were done by INEF, the federation, the union. Up until 1975, we were ruled by the Ministry of Work and Education. And in 75, there was a transformation in Portugal and football. José Maria Pedroto, there was a current of a communist network in 78. A new union was founded here in Porto. There was a period of conciliation, and in 85 we had the National Association of Coaches, and the courses were then reformulated. Up until then, you only needed a course for any team, and the National Association of Coaches, together with the federation, they changed all that, and we started having 4 courses. In those years, from the 1980, we came into the European Association of Coaches, and we presented our program of training. It was amazing, and they were amazed because at that time in the 80s, you had 2 courses in France, and we should also say that 2 Portuguese coaches, Nelo Barros and José Maria Pedroto, went to French, and they had great classifications. And about the success, some young people don't know very well the story that the Portuguese people have some success from the 80s. Pedroto in 71, he was a youth champion. Cândido Oliveira, for example, he trained Botafogo in 1950. So there were coaches, but we were in an isolated country without any knowledge. People before me, and I had the privilege of living with Fernando Vaz and José Maria Pedroto, and they told me that if I wanted to study, I needed to go to get books in the bookshop São de Porteiro. Milan da Costa, with the 25th of April, sees a lot about sports, with opening the democratization of teaching some football coaches, and we have 2 here who have degrees in physical education. They went to school to do different courses, and things changed. And the league was also very important, coming about in the 80s to organize our competitions. Because I started to play in 1967 when I was 15. Now you start when you are 5. So within this context, it was very hard to be successful in terms of coaches. But the fight for the profession kept, and we created a school of coaches who are here. It's success, that they are a success. Sometimes coaches don't have time, but we need time. And now I would open to ask a question: are there characteristics of Portuguese coaches? The 4 of us, we've trained in 21 countries. Just the 4 of us. I went and saw England, Poland, Israel, Italy, Brazil, China, France, Hungary, Wales, Greece, Spain, Turkey, United Emirates, Angola, Thailand, Vietnam, and of course Portugal. Just the 4 of us. I think that we have about 15,000 Portuguese coaches in the National Association. We have 8,000, so 200 of futsal coaches, 250 coaches abroad. Right now, in all levels and in youth football. So there's something that distinguishes. And now open to all, Vítor, Carlos. I think you mentioned something that is fundamental, which is the capacity that the courses gave us, our preparation, especially me. I come alongside the university. My university was in the pitch, but the courses gave structure to my ideas, to better plan, to better make decisions on methodologies. They helped me to better communicate, to understand the moments of crisis, on how to overcome those moments. And then the experience we have been having, a dense experience. You mentioned several countries. I went through many of them, but overall, my experience as a coach has given me the capacity to better know myself, because we have the skill of adapting to new challenges, new contexts, the difficulties we have in our daily lives, and this makes us better find ourselves, so that we can grow not only as coaches but also as people. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to answer your question. If there is a school of Portuguese coaches, it's almost as asking if there are Portuguese. This means that there is a common trait in a part of the population. And yes, as Portuguese, there is a lot of common things in the Portuguese, and we were just talking before. We have an excellent country. It's an excellent country for football. We don't take very good care of our football, but that's a different issue. We are in a country where you have Portuguese people, where Portuguese went on the discoveries, and we discovered new lands. This is our matrix, it's our genetics. At a certain point, we had massive immigration, especially not only for the Americas, but France, Germany, for these countries. And Portuguese people, because they have this matrix, they adapted very well to these countries, to the point that we know many people that didn't come back. They stayed there. The Portuguese people normally can socialize and unite people. This is our characteristic as well. And then you have the situation of our own training as coaches, the way we live, the way our microenvironment within the football, of young people who bring new ideas, coaches who share information, the courses, conversations with younger and older coaches. We learn with everyone. There is a big share, opposite to what happens in other countries. There is a possibility of updating as well. I think the Portuguese people don't stop normally. I have that feeling. Portuguese, in our genetics, we don't stop. We are always doing things. I'm stopped right now by option. I'm trying to learn French. It's not easy, and I'm taking a degree of PNL as well, because I think that it might help me in the future. I'm doing that with Filipe Marques. We're doing an excellent course that will help me to be a better coach. And we are always getting our knowledge up to date. And this trait of the Portuguese people, we are an amazing people. You are not aware how we are spectacular as Portuguese, because going to any country, when we got to Sheffield Wednesday in England, the first dinner to get people together, it was not organized by the people who were there. It was us, the Portuguese. We gathered the staff, everyone. We threw a dinner, 1, 2, 3. We have this capability of gathering people and connecting emotionally to people, which is something common in the Portuguese people. And I think this is important. If we talk about the Portuguese school of coaches, I think it's not only a conjecture, it's a structure. Many coaches were successful abroad, and that still happens. Professor Calixto was in Vietnam, Carlos Queiroz, very important, Manuel José in Africa, Mourinho in Europe, Abel, Vítor, Paulo, Jorge Jesus. I want to mention all, but a lot of coaches who were successful abroad. This is not a random thing. It's not an accident. It's a matter of knowledge and sharing that is very and connected to a Portuguese genetic trait of discovery of the world, of being able. We went with the Carvalhals to the knowledge, and without going too long, we have a great faculty, which is the thing, this skill. We are masters on solving issues. I'm not. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but in the times of the maritime discoveries, the Dutch had always a guy who could fix things. It was a Portuguese guy. It was not Vítor nor Manuel. It was the Portuguese guy. Call the Portuguese guy to solve these issues. So we have this capability that is very our own, which is very positive. We have this capability of managing things. Good afternoon, everyone. I like speaking a lot, but I won't have a lot to say. But sometimes I think, why am I a coach? I'm a coach because I was born close to the Espinho pit, football stadium. And over there, either you play football all day, we would play and then fight at the end, but whatever. But what do I mean? It's a cultural thing. But it is cultural in Brazil as well. That's in their blood as well. So what do I think has changed something here? I think that the federation had its contribution for sure, because the courses started to being more structured. Our capability of adapting, our skills in adapting, has a lot to do with that. We were born to go through the world. We are people from a small space, but we try to discover new things. We also manage. We are very so good at finding solution for this and for that. Universities helped us a lot, because I think that the field, the pitch experience is fundamental. Most coaches were former footballers. It was rare the fact that you are a coach without having a career. I didn't have. Carvalhal and Sousa had, but I only played in third division. But then when you join the knowledge of the pitch experience, of what is being in the pitch, or together with what the universities gave us, the federation gave us, we started having a lot of new people with quality. So the improvement in training was very important. I think that I've been in several countries, and the major problem there is that they don't realize that they need to invest in the training of coaches. I think that the great lab of my life was, in fact, in youth football. In youth football, I could mess around and there was no problem. I could make mistakes and then correct them, create them, and reinvent things, and that gave me a lot of knowledge. And I think that throughout these countries where we have been, they still invest in players who earn fortunes, or foreign coaches, but they forget that while they are not training their own coaches, while they don't invest in coaches in youth football, that won't get good results. I think we improved our academies, we improved the coaches in youth football. They are both men and women coaches, and this is another step forward. And all this with our natural capacity to do a lot with few. This gives us all this that I mentioned. I didn't realize that you were so old, Calixto. You talked about many years. I started coaching Boa Vista when I was 27 years old. José Maria Pedroto died very young. He died in 85, only 50, 60 years old. It was a major loss, and we had to restructure ourselves because he was the our great coach. So he called me, Fernando Vaz called me as well, and then we had a generation of coaches, and we didn't have this dichotomy between old and new. There was this thing of defending the class, but Vítor mentioned something very important, which is the difference from China, or the three of us, we were in China, but the one who was in more countries was Paulo, and he's a man who knows. Did you notice any difference between the training of coaches in different countries? Certainly. After closing my career as a footballer, I had the possibility of working together with UEFA for 6 years, and UEFA, besides all the seminars I took for 6 years, all the seminars for coaches, being at club level or national team level, I could attend them all, so sharing ideas. But they gave me the possibility of going through different countries and realize what was the type of projects that each country was implementing or wanted to implement. And I've seen that for sure we have a great capacity. We mentioned several times here the importance of what the Federation did, especially in my time, still when I was a player. All this project that people talk about, Professor Carlos Queiroz, who is this gathering the practical experience together with the theory, but especially being able to plan, to structure ideas, to then reach goals. That's extraordinary. But we need continuous training. We have a good basis, but then football changes constantly. There are variants that we need to pay attention to. Variants that don't have to do just with technology, but game systems, for example. You need knowledge so you can apply in certain moments. And these countries gave me not only an evaluation of the other countries so that we can better rank ourselves, because in order to make the comparisons, but we can also understand how much knowledge other people have and how can we get that knowledge. I recall several coaches who used the sentence, especially I think Fabio Capello was the one that was more expressive about it, that we are coaches that we steal ideas, but still, more than stealing ideas, we need to enforce them. And within the training itself, and in youth football, and that what's made me decide to be a coach is the fact that you can continue to grow, to make my knowledge grow, dependent on others, and others are also the players. And you need to apply that knowledge and see the players develop, feel that they are continuously growing. They are continuously growing, not only as players, but as people. If you let me talk about two things. And as a reference and as a testimony, we were invited at a certain point we were invited to be the technical sporting director of Al Ahly in Dubai, and I was hired to, let's say, coach the coaches from sub-9 to up to the secondary team, and that was my job. And I was responsible for creating a structure. But at the time, what we thought is we are going to be 2 years here for sure, and we want to leave a legacy for the future. If I brought some Portuguese coaches for the sub-16 or under-16, under-18 teams, the day we left, the work would go away. So what did we decide? I took a structure, I put the coaches we took there as assistants of coaches who had been recruited from as players of Al Ahly. Some of them were already players in the training, but all of them became main head coaches and my my workers were assistant coaches. It was a very successful, and when we left a legacy because were already used to things and they learned a lot, and this was very good. Another situation I wanted to mention, and because football, people say that is all invented, but football evolves a lot. And how can I tell you this? Well, because I was lucky enough to always have technical teams, and I always recruit someone from the technical team, someone who normally comes from the youth levels, as Miguel Cardoso, Bruno Lage, and Luís Nascimento, and now Sérgio Ferreira, which is normal. We have been working in big teams, and they think games in a more offensive way. So it's not by random choice. They come to our technical team, but they come to learn and to bring some value as well. And the thing is, you come to my technical staff until the moment you want to be a head coach. At that moment, you leave and you do your thing. But at each cycle of a coach that comes to our technical team, things change a lot. The more we teach, but the more we learn as well, because we will recycle permanently every 4 years, every 5 years. We will recycle things that we didn't do 5 years ago. Then with the coach that comes with new ideas, the assistant coach or the head coach that comes to do new things, we are always recycling, because this will allow us to do a permanent recycling of our technical staff. These were the two notes I wanted to leave. Do you want to, let's move to a different topic, or do you want to contribute to the discussion? Well, I think that our training of coaches is many times placed in 2 points: to know the theory, and to know how to put into practice. Our courses are very practical, but Portuguese coaches know how to be in abroad. They know how to behave there. It's very important to have the social life with the clubs, what Carvalhal just showed, which is try to make the clubs stronger. I think this is a characteristic of Portuguese people. Before I worked at the national team in Vietnam, there was an Austrian guy that did nothing. And I think that a Portuguese coach will transform a club. Do you agree with that? I think that sharing is fundamental. We evolve a lot when we share with them. We keep evolving every time. Football is exactly that. Normally, I say that football allows for my creative side and my science, which is the creation. Instead, if I wasn't a coach, I would have to be something connected to some kind of art. But this, I wanted to be something that would allow me to create. This permanent lack of satisfaction is what makes us evolve. And then this capacity that we have to get to foreign countries and to adapt is fundamental. For example, to lead Flamengo is different from leading Corinthians. It's a different thing. Two clubs that are completely different in the same country, different cities, that look at football in a different way and with a completely different group. To lead in China is not the same thing as doing it in Saudi Arabia or in Portugal. So when we are talking about leadership has a lot of issues there, and leadership has to do with this capacity of getting there and getting the most out of what we have. Sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't, because when things are well aligned, sometimes there are things that work in a certain club, with a certain team, with a certain group, and we think that we have already reached a certain level in our career, and that will work elsewhere with other players. and it doesn't work, because sometimes things are not that well aligned. Sometimes uh, we don't do it. So when the structure is not aligned, when those who are supporting us start diverging, because players are like that, human beings are like that. Human beings are always trying to find a detour in the path. That's it. Either we all align and the structure is fully aligned with the same project and we get results, you reach your goals, or sometimes you don't have the time. Many times, and this last experience I had in Flamengo, it is not possible without time, without time to work. You can't reach goals because things just don't show overnight. You might be lucky to things happened immediately, but and then you get time. Either you feel that alignment, and even with some detours, those who are supporting you are there to say what is the objective and let's do it together, or things will go wrong. And what sometimes something results in China allowed us to win the championship in China, we get to a different country, and when you think you are in a phase of that's why I normally say that 10 years ago, I think I knew more than what I have now. I have more doubts today. I think that there are more paths that you can go now. But what football is something that you feel passion for, because football was a huge passion that didn't let me sleep. That couldn't even sleep. You know, feeling butterflies on your stomach. I don't know if that might have happened with you as well. But nowadays, because of so many disappointments, you get so disappointed so many times. Nowadays, passion is kind of a drug. It's more like of a drug, but it's a drug. It's a drug that I can't live without. I can be 2 months without it, and then let me tell you, this experience in Flamengo, the first 2 months were terrible for me. Terrible. Now I'm more stabilized, but is like I'm in a hangover moment. This is what happens right now. It's a mixture of passion and something addictive. It's something that I cannot switch off. Even if it seems I'm here, it seems I'm here, I'm at home, but I'm not. But my head is elsewhere. That's why this issue of football, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a unique thing. I normally stop a little bit because I don't want to be like Vítor. I rather stop every once in a while because this causes problems. Yeah. You are in the phase of addiction. I don't agree with Vítor when he says he knows less than 10 years ago, but he has more doubts, and that doesn't mean you know less. I have less certainties. I have less uncertainties. That's it. In these last few years, what I've felt is that my growth is my own. Uh, I have less need for recognition. Since I was a kid, I was always evaluated, and I always felt that evaluation as a need. And now, every day I live better with myself without that evaluation. And I try to centralize that, because what Vítor just said, it is very important, because there are many factors that condition our work and the results of the team, the different departments. When everything is aligned, it works much better. But when we recognize that they are not aligned, We need to center exclusively on what we can control, which is practice, methodology, focusing on the players that we can control, and we can be happy with ourselves in what we do. And that has been my path in the last few years. I've been growing, being able to centralize, to focus on what I can control, which is the learning of my players, who also grow, who are better as people, as players, and they can move forward in their careers. From the three of you, the one with the longest career is Paulo. And something that I wonder is the transformation and the creation of the technical teams of two coaches that normally you have even sometimes more than 20 people in our technical staff. But how many elements do you have now in your technical team? And if they are in China, I had 11. In China, we were 11. But I think it is fundamental for sure, because there are different skills, and besides the different skills, I normally try to align in the alignment of human values that coincide with my own, because it's a space where I need to control, so I need to lead those decisions. So, and my decisions were always made in a group of work that had knowledge such as mine, better than mine, but with human values close to mine. There, we have an audience with young people, and some of them might want to belong to a technical staff. What are the characteristics that you want when you hire assistant coaches? Well, besides the skills, I need values such as honesty, respect for football and for people. This is another value that people need to be very clear, very frontal. Since the beginning, one of the things that I've been saying, not being a yes man is also important. I always tried, and I always incentivized a constant dialogue so that I could evolve myself and grow. I've started, my beginning was with a Portuguese guy who is Manuel Cordeiro. I started with Spanish people, and then we worked together in Hungary. No, I started with the Portuguese, in England. It was a short, quick passage with Bruno Oliveira. There we had a lot of difficulty. I had a lot of difficulty in having more collaborators. And then when I went to Hungary, as together with what Carlos mentioned, I had this need and the opportunity of having a wider number of collaborators, because we were focusing on the Puskás Academy, where we had the work of an idea to develop players and coaches and numbers at that time. And then, since then onwards, I started to establish my work team. But then skills above mine or superior to mine, because I had the experience of football. I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to grow even more. And that's what happens daily, every year, with my work team. Aligning with what Paulo just said, maybe talking about the technical staff and the last few clubs I've worked in, my right arm is João Mario. They are all coaches, and João Mario is the one who organizes the defense. Sergio works on the methodology and the organization of the offensive part. Then we have João Meirelles, who's responsible for the framework of the work rates according to what we are going to work on. And then Tiago, who is our analyst, our young analyst, within what Paulo said in the values, balanced people who can complete us. Now in Celta, the goalkeeper coach was local, and we try to manage things the best way possible. I recall a situation that happened in Swansea. In Swansea, we had a game on Saturday and arrived on Thursday or Friday. I needed to prepare the game very quickly, and I made the mistake of saying I want the team all together, everything connected to football, everyone goes, and let's go all together. And when I left on Friday to leave to London, you said 2 buses. I had 2 buses. Well, and there was 2 buses. Why? We said everyone because I have this technical, this analysis member, etc., etc., etc. We had 30 something members, just the technical staff. So maybe even too much people. When you have too much people, it's a problem. But still, we need to manage all that and put people working. So people told me, well, let me solve this. But still, to close, within the framework we have now, there is a great autonomy in my technical staff. So that's why they are responsible. They are aligned with the methodology, with more intervention from my side in the beginning of the season and less by the end. But more and more, my technical team intervenes when being a specific marker. If the trainer is going to intervene, this is very important, because if I'm always providing feedback, that's an issue. My technical staff has a lot of autonomy for sure in the whole team, and when they really need to intervene, of course I'm there. I intervene as well, and with experience I notice that there is more relevance when we have a certain type of attitude, despite the fact that in either group work there are differences, and we need some flexibility. But just to close, and that you can understand how much this man is a genius, I don't take a coffee with him because of his pastry, because of his creativity, because he destroys all the paper napkins, he draws things. Just to confirm what Vítor was saying, he is not a common person, because I had the pleasure to be with him, and it is fascinating because you leave there with a new coach gets their 300 napkins in the pocket. It's the beginning of a book, right? Also in this contrariety, also in this situations, are there differences of being a trainer, a coach of the youth, and a professional coach? Well, the youth coach needs to know how to teach, because many times I used to say those who were my players in the youth teams or in the technical staff that I had can become a coach, because that player understands the game in a certain way. But when we go to the adult teams, we think that some things are already solved, but they are not. Basic things, the most basic you can realize. So sometimes we are talking about national team players. For me, that's a little bit like that. To teach the game, I think that youth coaches need to know very well the game, need to know how to teach. They need to be educators too. But when you reach the adult teams and you move ahead and you are at the top, you need to know how to teach the game as well. You need to know how to educate differently, but the relationship with them is fundamental. So essentially, the assistant coaches need to be coaches. They need to know a lot about football, which means then you give them the responsibility, but all of them, to me it happened. What happened with you? I was a coach I had a lot of intervention, and I was even a little, I made it things like a robot. I would be a commander, let's say. I was in practice and say, go there, go there, go there. And then I started with the confidence that you get in the quality of your assistants. I always had high-level assistants. How many do you have now? Well, it all depends. It depends. Sometimes you go into a project, but you have the goalkeeper coach, you have this and that and that. But there is a basis of people that is fundamental for me, and it goes with me everywhere. But what I had today is I give them the responsibility in terms of defense. I have this or that. And nowadays, instead of being the commander, I need to leave the box in order to understand what is working and what's not working. And sometimes I need to just shut them up so that I can see what results or not. Because sometimes games when with 40,000 people, you can't listen to anyone. If you only work with your remote, sometimes when you get 40,000 people, no one listens to you, you won't work. So that's a little bit what experience gives you. But that's it. Youth players, I was such a good coach. I was as good when I was training the youth as I am now. I think that the level is the same, because when I got to the adult team, to the main team, what I did in the youth teams was building. When I got to adult teams, were only the charge of effort, but I still had to teach. I still needed to teach. I would say that in youth teams you need to be an educator. In the adults you need to be a winner, because if you are not a winner, well, when I've worked in youth teams, I always needed to win as well. Do you think that's right? Well, I think that you need to train people to win. But if you were to choose between individual coaching and winning, well, to train people to win is to train a player that from the technical and tactical point of view, from the decision of has quality, but also in his DNA, he has the will of always winning. Because then you get players, high-level players, who don't have the capacity. They don't have the will. They have the capacity, but they don't have the will to win. To train to win is not to deform, because I've deformed some. Well, I took care of some. Yeah, I managed to mess around some. In Padroense, we have here was my director in Padroense. In Padroense, in the first team, the juvenile teams, I talked to Pereira as well. They chose the best players in the country based on what they made them different. They were different kids. The one, a winger that was very fast and was always winning. Do you know what I did? Please say close, because the referee is saying that there is no extra time. We could have a talk for many minutes and many hours, but we need to close, and we need to thank all the participants. It's true, we are over 6 minutes. Pedro, just let me say this, because I see a young audience that has a lot of will of knowing and getting knowledge. Let me tell you that Paulo is here, who has a past, a present, and a future. Vítor, and I'm here. The three of us, I only have past, yeah. And I'm talking about the ones that are active. The four of us, we were fired many times. We were sacked many times. But we moved forward. We believed our work, and we moved forward. Nowadays, the immediacy that you have now makes you give up. Don't give up at first or second or third try. If you have the skills, if you know, go, move forwards and reach your dreams. Okay? A sentence to close. Just to close. And there is a big difference between a Portuguese coach and a foreign coach. The Portuguese coach shares, there has no secrets. The others think that secrecy provides excellence, but no, sharing provides secrecy. If you could come here, Pedro Proença, to deliver the gifts
aqui aos nossos convidados especiais para este...
to our special guests on this panel of coaches.
Sr. Presidente, muito obrigado. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
Este ao contrário, este é levezinho, os outros eram pesados, os da gala. Era um
Obrigado. Também.
Grande mestre. Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Paulo, obrigado. Obrigado pelo partido. Obrigado.
E obrigado, Paulo. Obrigado, Carlos.
Obrigado.
Vítor.
Desculpe lá, esta não foi por mal.
Obrigado. Seria melhor.
Pedro,
E
good luck, Pedro.
Tudo bom.
obrigado.